Welcome back to another episode of The Market Has Spoken with
Mark Jones
and Hersh Shah.
Today we're going to talk about second half goals. It's halftime in the real estate business because we're in the middle of the year. So we're going to talk about what you need to do to look at your goals, evaluate what's been working and what hasn't, and what you need to do to hit that goal that you set back in December.
Yeah. And for an extra level of accountability, listen to the pro tips that we gave so that you can not only hit your goals, but also thrive in the rest of 2024.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to another episode.
Yeah, glad to have you here. What are we going to talk about today, Hersh?
We're going to talk about how to craft your business plan for 2024 second half.
Second half of 2024. Got it. Okay. So what's the first thing we should be doing?
Well, first, we got to understand where we have been for the first half of the year, whether you're on target or ahead of target for what you said you wanted to do for the entire 2024.
Right.
Based on what that looks like, we've got to make some modifications, just like you would in any sports game, to say, hey, it's halftime. I've got to come in more aggressive. I've got to play more defense. What does that look like for you?
Right. Well, you made a really good analogy, and I love a good sports ball analogy, so I'll run with it. So at halftime, most teams, I would venture to guess, don't go into the locker room and talk about adjusting their goal downward, right? They don't go, well, maybe we don't need to win this one, right?
Yeah.
They go in there and they're like, we need more to win,
Exactly.
right? And I think in real estate, what I've seen a lot of agents do is go, okay, I'm halfway through the year. I looked at what my goal was for last year. This year is harder than I thought, so I'm going to adjust my goal downward, right? And I think the challenge is for agents to look at their goals, and if it was important to them enough to set it as a goal at the end of December last year, it's probably important enough to keep it as a goal.
Absolutely.
And not adjust it downward.
Yeah.
And maybe just look at what you've done and how can you adjust what you've done to make up for any shortcoming that you have thus far.
Yeah. The whole point that I go into sort of moments like this where I'm forecasting, okay, here's all the things that I need to do. It's never to, okay, how can I just get by?
Right.
It's what do I need to do different? What do I need to do more of? Or what do I need to do more effectively to make sure that 2024 or whatever time frame it is that you're looking at is successful for you?
I also like to look back at what got in the way.
Yeah.
Right. So what kept me from hitting that goal? Because we all, if we're honest with ourselves, can probably identify what that is.
Yeah.
It may be that you didn't talk to enough people.
Yeah.
It may be that you weren't in touch with your sphere and you spent too much time working in your business and not enough working on the business.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, be honest with yourself and identify what has stopped you from getting to where you wanted to go in the first place. And then let's address that, right? Like let's first remove the impediments.
Yeah.
So clear the roadway. If there's something standing in the way, let's address it and decide what we're going to do to change that, because it's only if we change that it's not going to stand in our way again.
Exactly. And you know, simply put, I think it's say yes to the right things, say no to the things that didn't help you, because there's books, say yes to more things, say no to more things. Which do you do? Well, do they help you get to your goals or not?
Right.
You know,
right.
And just figure that out and do more of what helped you.
What activities were dollar producing for you, right?
Yeah.
And which weren't?
Sure.
I think we tend to get wrapped up in a lot of stuff that is not dollar cost productive.
Yeah.
And we don't spend enough time doing things like getting in front of people, building relationships, and all of the things that actually get us new clients or get us referrals from past clients.
Yeah.
Sphere, all of that. Or get one of our past clients in Sphere to actually raise their hand and say, hey, I think I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we start mid-year, there are a few key metrics that you should be tracking such that you know exactly what to do each and every day to make sure that you're hitting the goals that you set out to achieve. And by the way, these are going to be lead measures, not lag measures.
Right.
Can you explain what that is, Mark?
Yeah. So the difference between a lead measure and a lag measure is a lead measure is something that you can track, an activity that's going to lead you to success.
Yeah.
Right. To hitting your goal. An example of lead measure is the number of appointments you've taken.
Yeah.
How many listing appointments have you gone on? How many buyer appointments have you had? Those are lead measures. Also, the number of contacts you've made is a lead measure because contacts lead to appointments.
Sure.
Right. So That's what a lead measure is. A lag measure is something that shows the results of the activities you've done. Number of units closed, for example, is a lag measure. Dollar volume is a lag measure.
Yeah.
And honestly, especially in a not robust market like we're in right now, in 2021, it was fun to say what our volume was.
Yeah.
Because everyone's volume was so much higher than they expected it to because prices were so much higher.
Sure.
Right now, I think people should be focused on units.
Yeah.
If you're an agent out there and you're focusing on volume, I would challenge you to focus on units because you have more control over how many closings you have versus what the dollar amount of each closing is.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also important to understand that tracking a lead measure will allow you to pivot much quicker. Yeah. Because if you're only focused on closings and you don't have any for a month or for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever the time frame is, you've wasted a lot of time. But I can tell you today if what I did today is going to help me get to a closing.
Right.
That may be as simple as, you know what, I need to have 20 conversations today.
Right.
That'll tell me if I am going to have a closing or not from that activity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The number of conversations you have leads directly to the number of appointments you have.
Yeah.
The number of appointments leads directly to the number of agreements you get signed, listing agreements and buyer agreements. And that leads directly to how many actual purchase and sale contracts you get, which leads to how many closings you have. So you have to be tracking all of those along the way because although the number of closings is your lag measure, that's your final goal.
Yeah.
But the lead measure is what's going to get you there. So we need to do a little work and look at what you've done this year and how many conversations did you have to get to one closing?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's important for, we've heard this in several different environments where we talk about conversion ratios. And for the purpose of today's conversation, understand that all we're talking about is what is your level of skill and how well can you convert a conversation into an appointment. For most people, that's probably going to be somewhere around 75 to 80%, especially if it's your database, right? If it's online leads, that may be something like 2 to 3%. So understand where your numbers are and your level of skill to figure out what your conversion ratio is. From there, this math makes a lot more sense.
For sure. And online leads, by the way, right now in this market are actually less than 1%.
Yeah.
So they've gone way down because the quality of that lead has gone way down.
Yeah.
You have a lot more people looking at online portals that can't afford it right now.
Sure.
Right. So they've been taken out of the market, but they're still dreaming.
Yeah.
So they're online, they're going on Zillow, they're looking at properties. So that's being given to someone as a lead, even though those people are sort of sidelined for a moment.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's great for future business. But if I'm looking at what can I close in the next 180 days.
Right.
And there's a lot of holidays in there. So really it's like 150 days.
Right.
What does that look like? What are my activities going to be?
Right. And here's the other thing. Right now, it's mid-year, so we've got 6 months behind us, but we only have about 90 to 120 days to get things under a contract that are going to close this year.
Say that again.
So on July 1st, you only have about 90 to 120 days to get something under contract to get it to close this year. So if it's not under contract by November 15th, it's probably not going to close this year. You might have get some closings in the beginning of December, but once the holidays hits, we all know the market shifts drastically down because so many people sort of check out of things like buying a home and they put things on hold until after the holidays, right?
And I don't want to add another complexity to that, but it also happens to be an election year.
Correct.
Which some people, not everyone, tend to not make decisions during election years. So just understand that as you're building this, don't build it off of the 180. Build it off of maybe the 80 to 90 true good working days that you might have based on the holidays, the elections, and end of the year.
Yeah, which means July, August, September, and probably October need to be as purposeful and intentional as possible with your conversations, with the number of people you're talking to get to your goal by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And some people sitting out there might be like, I don't care if I hit my goal.
Yeah.
That's great.
Sure.
Then why did you set it?
Yeah.
People tell me that all the time, like, I don't care if I hit my goal. Then it wasn't a goal.
Well, and did you set a goal and did you become the person that you needed to be to achieve that goal?
Yeah. Say that again, because that's important.
So I don't know if this is, coaching conversations and all this, but what I've realized is when you set a goal, I set really high goals, by the way. I have to become a different person to achieve those goals. I have to act differently. I have to talk differently. I have to walk differently for each of those things so that I have a plan to hit it. And if you didn't change who you are and said, I'm going to double my business without changing a single thing about it, that's not a goal.
Right.
That's a dream that may or may not happen. Yeah.
Or a hope. And we all know hope is not a strategy,
No,
right?
no.
So, but that's a really good point, because to change something in your life, you have to, there's a lot of science around this. First, you have to, in your mind, ask yourself, what kind of person achieves that goal?
Yeah.
And what are the habits that that person has, and start adopting those habits. And that's how you change your circumstances.
Sure.
Is by changing the activities.
Yeah.
And changing your habits, and habits are hard to, that's why they're habits, right?
Yes,
they're hard to break.
Yeah.
So you have to adopt the new habits to get new results. So I think that's a really good point, is to spend some time thinking about, like, okay, someone that achieves X, what do they do every day when they get up? Am I doing those things?
Yeah.
What do they do when they get to the office? Am I doing those things?
Yeah.
I can tell you that one agent here that comes in every morning at 7:30, and he's here early every day, and he is sending emails. He's reaching out to people, social media, whatever it is. Like, he's doing a lot of the work that he has to do for the day to reach his goals, starting at 7:30 in the morning when no one else is even in the office. And I will tell you that he's one of the top 2 agents right now in our company.
Yeah.
Right. So having that mindset is what drives that success.
Yeah. And I'll parlay that into this. If you understand what it is that you need to do, it's often best to do it first thing in the morning before you get sidelined by the distractions of real estate, by the distractions of water cooler talk and all the other things that we sort of run into. And that's why he does it. It's let me do the hardest bit of work that I have to do.
Right.
Which is lead gen, by the way, first thing in the morning.
And part of that is setting expectations with people so that you're not stressed that you're not getting back to someone.
Yeah.
When you are dealing with clients and you're dealing with, transactions, contracts, other agents, let them know, hey, I don't return emails until after 11 a.m. So if you've sent me something, don't freak out if you haven't heard from me between, you send it to me at night. Don't freak out because I don't think I'm ignoring you. I just don't start returning emails till 11 because I have a habit of lead generation in the morning that is important. And once I start returning emails, my day's shot.
Yeah.
So I don't do that until I get that lead generation out of the way.
Yeah.
So, just know that, like, that's going to stress you out if you haven't had those conversations. You haven't set the expectation.
Yeah.
Put it in your email responder. Put an autoresponder that says, thanks for your email. I respond to emails from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. If I haven't gotten back with you, please give it one full business day before you reach out.
And people, when they see that, they don't care. They understand that, okay, there's no question. Why aren't you responding to me back enough, right? So, or in a decent amount of time or whatever that looks like. So now that we understand what mindset is and how we have to set goals and who we need to become,
right? What
are some of the most actionable things that we can track?
Conversations.
Okay.
Number one, conversations.
Okay. How many should I be having every day?
It depends on what your goal is, right?
Sure.
So, because everyone has a different number of conversations to appointment ratio.
Sure.
So, but if you're not sure what yours is, assume that, like, for every 20 to 25 conversations you're having, you'll get one lead.
Yeah.
Right. And that lead may not necessarily be an appointment, but it's a follow-up conversation.
Sure.
Sometimes it's directly to an appointment.
Yeah.
But I'd say every 20 to 25 people you touch base with in your database, it's going to be there. Like you said, if it's online leads, you're probably over 100 before you get one solid lead or appointment.
And Trey on my team is now tracking one-to-one conversations as well as one-to-many or one-to-group conversations, right? And all the things that he does. And he walks around with a sheet of paper that's got, it's houses, just because we're in real estate. And he checks off each time he has a conversation. There's 100 houses on the list, and he's got to talk to 100 people every single week.
Okay.
Of that, if he turns it over, it's now how many people did I actually have a conversation with in a one-to-one environment that wasn't just sort of a rushed conversation.
Right.
That may be a coffee meeting or a lunch meeting or whatever that looks like. And by doing that, simply tracking, you will understand what your conversion ratio is. So again, use the industry average, but hone in on what your personal conversion ratio is. Right. Because if it's not as good as you'd like it to be, guess what? You've got to practice and get better.
And you need to talk to more people.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said that, because one thing I've noticed that a lot of real estate agents don't realize, at least in the first couple of years they're in business, is that they always need to be setting the next step.
Yeah.
Right. So every time you hang up with someone in your sphere of influence, or you hang up with someone that's a past client, let them know what next time they're going to hear from you is, right? I'll touch base with you in a couple of months, and we'll go from there. Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But like when you have someone that's interested, well, here's what I'm going to do, Hersh. I'm going to make a few phone calls and see what I can find out about that for you, and then I'll get back with you by the end of the day Friday. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So setting that next step, that's what sales is, right? I think a lot of people, I'm fortunate because I came from a sales environment.
Sure.
I was in consultative selling and banking. So I was used to selling and moving a process forward. And I learned from a very early age in my professional career what sales is. And sales is helping people and moving the ball forward.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really important to understand that, so that if you can move the ball forward and you keep setting the next step with people, then you're automatically going to close more business, because you're not being passive.
Yeah.
You're being the guide that your client needs to get you where you want to go.
And most people don't know to ask you, like, what should I do next?
Yeah,
like,
what's my next step?
Yeah, who asks that, right? In any conversation. But if you tell me what I need to do, okay, usually no hesitation, I'm just going to go do it.
So like, here's the conversation. You asked me about the value of your home. I give you a range. So instead of just ending it there, I'm going to say, hey, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to pull some comps and do a quick CMA. It's not going to be like a detailed, like you're buying this house. But I want to make sure that you have the information you need. So I'm going to do a slightly deep dive and get you an accurate price range.
Yeah.
Because I want you to know how much money you have in equity that you're sitting on.
Sure.
And then I'll get back with you by the end of the day tomorrow. Does that work for you?
Yeah. Guiding the conversation.
Guiding the conversation.
Right. So if you're having the conversation, which is funny because we're talking about conversations, if you're having that first conversation and you're getting to the appointment, I understand for each person that looks a little bit different based on what their conversion ratio is.
Right.
But what should you be targeting per week if I'm, let's say, a less than $10 million producer? That's a big range.
That's a big range.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it depends on your goal, right? But if it takes you, let's put it this way, if it takes you 100 conversations a week to get to 4 appointments,
sure,
let's say that, then you need to be having, and 4 appointments gets you to 3 agreements, and 3 agreements gets you to 2 closings, right? Assuming that one falls out because they overpriced
life
it,
happened,
whatever.
yeah.
So, or a buyer flakes, doesn't qualify, whatever. You need 2 closings to get to your goal, right? So 4 appointments to 3 agreements to 2 contracts and closings, right? So to get to that 2 closings, you need to go back and look, how many conversations did it take me to get here? It's 100 conversations, right? So to get two closings a month, which is 12 per year, or 24 per year rather, my brain. We really shouldn't do this on Friday afternoon. We should do it Monday morning when we're fresh. So to get to that 24 closings a year, you really need to be having 100 conversations.
And if you break it down per day, some days you might get hit with a bunch of real estate fires you've got to put out. But the goal is a daily goal and a weekly goal and a monthly goal. Surely you're not going to miss the day, the week, and the month. You've got to make up some time for any sort of lost time that you've had. If you want to, again, if you're going to believe in your goals and you're going to try to go after them.
So I saw a GIF that has what people think consistency looks like, and it's like this straight line.
Yeah.
And what consistency really looks like, and it's like this up and down, up and down, up and down. Like some days you do a lot, some days you do 0.
Sure.
And some days you do somewhere in between. And I think that's the misunderstanding that we all have, or a myth that we believe, is that if I don't do X per day, I'm not being consistent. and sticking to that's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? Like having daily consistency in anything is really hard for most people.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. You can have, a good day on Monday and get 20 conversations done.
Yeah.
Maybe you do 25 on Monday. Wow, that's amazing, right? But maybe on Tuesday you don't talk to anyone because you were in a closing and something blew up at the last minute and you also had a listing appointment.
Yeah.
So, but then Wednesday, make up for it. Have a little bit better day. Do a little bit more than what you were hoping to do. So anyway, long story short, it just all evens out.
Yeah.
And don't get thrown by perfection and wanting to hit something every day, and then if you don't hit it, go, forget it.
Yeah. And by the way, this is the same in weight training or losing weight or anything like that. You go in with a plan of 5 days per week. I'm going to work out.
Right.
Most people, if they miss a day, it just completely drops off, right? Because they missed a day, and then it's like, I've got to start all over again. And that's the consistency piece that Mark's talking about. If you miss a day, it's okay. Get back on the horse, right? Don't let it fester and create this massive drop.
Yeah, because a lot of us are in that mindset that if we don't do it every day, then what's the point? We shouldn't do it at all.
Yeah.
And you're never going to do it consistently every single day and hit your goal every single day for a number of conversations you have.
Yeah.
But what you can do is do the best you can that day.
Yeah.
And then wake up the next day and do it again.
Yep.
Some days we're busy just servicing the business we've created.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I go back to, I believe it was Mega Camp last year. Ed Milet spoke, and he's got a book on this too. The Power of One More.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's okay. I'm going to do it for one more day.
Yep.
You fall off? Okay. I'll do it for one more day.
There's a reason that people in recovery from drugs and alcohol don't set big annual goals, and they just go like, I'm just going to focus on today because that's all I can do to get through. And if I get through today, that's a win. Let's start again tomorrow. Yeah. Like you just, the best way to micromanage your own goals is to do it on a daily basis.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. So we've talked about tracking conversations, which leads to potential appointments.
Yep.
Which leads to agreements signed both on the buyer and seller side.
Right.
Which leads to things getting under contract, which leads to closings.
Right.
And along the way, certain things sort of pop off or drop off, I should say, because you're not going to have 100% consistency in each and every step.
Right.
Right. So if you're using the industry average, you could probably use 75% as a standard to say, hey, of those, I'm going to close 75%. Of these appointments, 75% will actually sign something.
Yeah.
Of the people that sign, 75% will close something.
And 75 is probably low for really experienced agents. Yeah. Because once you've been in this business a while, a lot of your listing appointments, depending on your source of business, but if you're a sphere of influence kind of person, then you're probably getting most of your business from referrals and past clients. So, and people that who already know, like, and trust you. So you're going on a listing appointment, you're probably going to get it. It's probably like what we call a come list me. Like they're ready. Yeah. And you're not competing for that. Sure. So you have a much higher success ratio, right? So yeah, your conversion's a lot higher. If you're newer in the business and you don't know what that is, start with 75%. And that way you can make sure that you can hit your goal. Yeah.
To make it super simple, there's probably 3 to 4 things that we should track: conversations, appointment set, and agreement signed. If you can control those 3 things, Mark, do you think that I am going to have a successful second half of 2024?
Yeah, if you can control those things, that's the majority of the battle, right? Like that, and being really good at keeping deals together to get them to closing, right? So, but assuming that that's not a challenge for you on the service side, getting it to closing, then on the sales side, the lead generation activities, if you can get your conversations goal hit, your appointment goal hit, and your agreements goal hit, then you're pretty likely going to hit your closing goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's as simple as that. If you want 5 closings, figure out what those numbers are for you and then work backwards and go have that many conversations regularly.
Absolutely.
Anything that you would like to add on to that?
Nah, it's Friday. My brain's fried.
We record these Friday afternoon, by the way. I don't know if we're going to publish this part, but
We're pretty loopy on Fridays.
end of the week. Yeah, things are always going off, right?
And we don't have a script and we don't practice. We just sort of sit down and chat. So it's
we're that
always
good.
It's always a roll of the dice as to
Yeah.
whether there will be sheer disaster or sheer brilliance. And sometimes there's a little of both.
Yeah. Good news is we're audio's on, hopefully camera's on. You know,
Right.
That's the little things. We celebrate
Lights
the
are
little wins. Yeah, the lights are on.
Right.
Still, let's do one of these.
For now. Highlight.
Anything else business wise that you think is relevant other than kind of the tracking piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to also look at your relationship with goals.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is some people, if they set too high a goal, get discouraged.
Okay.
Some people need a really high goal to get motivated.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
Sure.
And what you don't want to do is set a goal that's going to discourage you, right? Because it's too unattainable.
Yeah.
If you're a great example of this, you set high goals for yourself and you do everything you can to get there. And if you don't hit it, you're like, well, I got closer than I would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So you know that shooting for a high goal for you is inspirational.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that, for me, give me a manageable goal and let me blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
Then I feel better.
Sure.
Right. So I'd rather have a more reasonable goal and exceed it.
Yeah.
Because that's where I get my second win from, is
Sure.
from having already hit the goal, so I can keep going.
Well, and it's a momentum, right?
Right.
And you've created a momentum to achieve a goal. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Right. And my coach asked me this the other day, and she goes, "Hey, I have a 10x goal this year, which is just like, what's the craziest goal that you can think of, and let's do that." But then I've also changed a lot of habits to make sure that I can become someone that I need to be in order to hit those. Right. That's what we talked about earlier.
Right.
And she asked me the other day, she goes, "Would you be upset based on where you're tracking for your business right now? Would you be upset if you didn't hit your goal?" And I said, "No. But I got 60 to 70% of a goal that I didn't think I could achieve.
That was crazy. Yeah.
I'm happy."
Right.
She goes, "Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page." Right. So understand, like you said, what your relationship is.
Right.
And make sure that you set goals that way.
And you also brought something else up, which I think is probably an important point to make, is having a coach, right? Having someone to hold you accountable
Yeah.
to what you say you're going to do is going to help you get there faster. If you want to get in shape, you go to a gym and you hire a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Right? Because if nothing else, spending that money and knowing someone's waiting for you at that god-awful appointment time at 5 a.m. Is going to get you there.
Yeah.
Right? So having someone hold you accountable to your goals really helps you stay focused on them. And it also gives you someone to check in with when it's not happening, to go, "Hey, I'm really struggling here with XYZ. What do you suggest I do?" And they'll help you work through it. The best coaches aren't really giving you information. They're helping you figure out what you need to do.
Yeah.
So they're probably asking you more questions than anything.
100%. I don't think my coach tells me what to do.
Right.
There's a few times where she'll call me on my bluff, right? And it's almost a therapy session at that point. But it's typically questions that make me think
Right.
with a long pause, and then I answer with whatever it is, and then we create a plan based on what I say I want to do. It's not, "Hey, go do this."
Right.
Right. And that's it's no different than what we do with our clients. Tell me your goal and let me help you achieve it.
Yeah, exactly. And no one denies their own truth, right? So if your coach can get you to say what your goal is and they don't impose their goal for you on you, then you're more likely to accept it and go with it.
Sure.
Right? So great coaches are really good at helping you sort of self-discover what the answers are, what your goals need to be, and what you need to do to hit them.
Yeah, agreed.
I think a lot of people out there do not have someone holding them accountable to their goals, and it's a lonely business. As a solo agent particularly, it's a lonely business because you are the janitor, you are the chief cook and bottle washer, you are the sales guy, the service guy, the complaints department, and the post-sale closing department. You're everything. So you don't have anyone else that you can bounce stuff off of, share with, get inspired by. So it's really, really important to have either an accountability partner or coach or a community of people that you check in with. Like one of the things we do here is our agents get together once a month in their own production level and have a mastermind. And what I've found is agents get a lot out of that because it's almost therapeutic for them to hear, if nothing else, other people have the same struggle. Other people have found solutions to some things that you're struggling with. And something you've found a solution with is actually going to help someone else. Right? So those moments are really eye-opening for people. And when they don't have that, they may not realize they're missing it because they've never had it. But when they get it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So having a community around you or a person that's going to hold you accountable and help you through those moments is invaluable.
I agree. And there's so many times we've done them now for about 6 months, right? Where we walk into it, everyone is being vulnerable within their peers to say, hey, here's what I need help with. And you may or may not have experience with it. Chime in as you see fit. But ultimately, it's a collective of people that want to help you succeed.
Yeah, it's really powerful when you get a bunch of high-producing agents in a room and just let them share what their challenges are and what their wins are. Right? I think everyone has something that they can contribute to the group because no two people do this business the exact same way.
That's right.
So it's really fun to watch people get new ideas from each other and inspire each other and make each other laugh, frankly, because hearing the way some of our coworkers think about what they do is hilarious.
I agree. So biggest takeaway from this, right? If you don't have a community of people, find one, at least an accountability partner that is going to challenge you when you try to give them some BS to your goals, right? Once you've done that, then you want to start tracking your conversations, your appointments, your agreement signed, and lastly, your closings. Which you don't have to track those because the work you do will take care of the goal that you have.
Again, that's a scorekeeping method. Like, did the plays I ran get me a goal? Right. So that's kind of what you're looking at there.
Exactly.
So, and the conversations and the appointments are your plays.
Well, that's it for this episode.
This is Mark Jones.
This is Hersh.
And this has been The Market Has Spoken.